Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jaynky to the Max, a podcast where we talk about interesting projects and the even more interesting creators who created them. Today on the show, we have my fantastic friends, Dara and Zach, or as you probably know them online, Hector and Thalia. They'll be talking about their a whole variety of projects. It's going to be super interesting. Before we get to that, we've got a few announcements. First off, Jack, he was on the show. He was actually the first person on the show with this discrete computer, which is really awesome. Anyways, he's putting on a game jam called Jamcraft, and it's got prizes. So if you're into game development, I'm sure that'd be a really fun event. Go and check it out. We'll put a link in the description. Next up is we're going to have Space Month for the entire month of April, and so far we've got a fantastic guest list. It's going to be so much fun. Really looking forward to that. Lastly, as always, we record these live, so if you're listening to this podcast, like, subscribe, do whatever you do there, just show support, and then also hop on our Discord server. It's always a blast. We always have a great before and after party. But yeah, should hop on. So without any more, hey there, Hector and Thalia.
Hey.
Hello.
So tell us what you're working on. Let's start off with Hector. Tell us about the ham radio.
Oh boy. Well, the ham radio project is a really like large conglomeration of projects. Really, currently I'm working on variable frequency oscillator part of it. It's a little controller running a SI5351 chip from Silicon Labs. It's just a second. It's a multi-output clock source that a lot of people use for different things like in radio frequencies. You can use it for demodulating or modulating signals going in and out of the radio. And so I'm making a little tool for that right now, so it's easier to build the rest of the radio and test things like filters. Right now, anyway.
Cool. So you said there's a group of projects.
Yes. Okay. So the whole thing, the idea of like the first radio that we're trying to build is a user-friendly technician level. Technician is the first class of ham radio. It's the first license level. And it doesn't give you access to all the bands completely. So the goal of the radio is to make it easy to use Morse code with a computer to send messages on lower frequencies, which work in a 600-mile radius when you're pointing basically straight up. It's called NVIS. It's near vertical instant sky bounce. It's basically like bouncing directly off a mirror, which is opposed to what you normally do with ham radio, which is send long distance bounces. So like a bounce to Japan is 1 or 2 bounces off the sky. However, if you're doing NVIS, your bounce is coming right down next to you, like it'd be covering Oregon and a little bit of California and Idaho, etc. So that's cool, because not everybody wants to talk to somebody in Japan or wherever the atmosphere will let you talk.
Right, because isn't it super dependent on the atmosphere and
the
space weather, space weather?
Yep.
Which sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. We've gotten a lot of, we found a ton of interesting stuff. Had a lot of fun. But if you want to talk to relatives or something, it's difficult to reliably talk to them, actually, especially when they're nearby because of that whole sky bounce thing. So the whole idea is that it's a mid-power radio that's easy to use, it's cheap to make, and it works well for technician levels, and there are few frequencies that they're allowed.
Oh, and so it's going to send Morse code, which I assume is then going to be have to be translated right on the other person's computer.
Right. So what we have is we have it hooked up to just software that other people have made. Like I don't really like writing software, so we're trying to make it compatible with existing software. And we've actually had the whole thing working, but we don't have our own transmission module in it yet. And the transmitter module that we're using is a bit crappy, so we're working on designing our own right now. But yeah, you just hook it up to a phone or a computer with an aux cable, and hit go, and it'll start transmitting. And the receiver is also separate so far. So that's another thing that we've got to combine into one board.
Wow, and so how big is this going to be? Like when it's all done? Are we talking? Yeah.
We're hoping to make it as small as possible, just because that's convenient. If you just want to throw it in like your car's glove box or something.
So that's small.
Yeah, well,
in the backpack.
Ideally, it would be that small. Of course, we don't actually have the final thing yet, but so far we're using surface mount components for as much as we can, and there are MOSFETs specifically that we're trying to use that are absolutely tiny. The technology is called EGAN or GANFET. I believe it's gallium arsenate nitride MOSFET, which has a very low on resistance, which means that you can make the MOSFET really tiny because it's not dissipating a lot of power. It doesn't get hot. And so you can put it right on the PCB instead of on a heatsink.
Okay. Wow. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And that usually takes up the most room on your board is your amplifier, because everything else is already really tiny.
So essentially, what you're working on is a project that lengthens the amount of the lengthens the amount you can transmit without having to rely on relay stations through bouncing the radio waves. Well,
right.
That's not a very good way to say it, but sure,
well,
radio waves off the atmosphere, right?
Yeah,
and to do that cheap and fast.
Yeah, so 2 meter, which is basically a walkie-talkie with more power. Those 2 meter handheld radios that I believe you actually own one of them. They do not go very far. They go about 1 to 10 miles, depending on how high up you are and how much dirt is between you and your end source.
Power rating.
Yeah, and how much power they have. So if you have a repeater that's high up, you can go from your handheld to a repeater and be able to talk a lot farther. But of course, that relies on the repeater being open and actually working.
Mm-hmm. And that other people are actually listening.
Yeah, and that other people are actually listening.
Right.
That's always a requirement.
So, where are you at in this whole project?
We are working on, I say we because my dad and I are working on this. We are working on developing the VFO, like I said, and he is working on the prototyping and manufacturing process. So he's been able to create PCBs with our CNC mill by scratching a ink layer and then etching the board, which makes really, really precise pads and wires on a PCB. So he's been experimenting making the amplifier driver. So he's basically made a development board at this point in time with just the MOSFETs and a anti-phase comparator that will drive two MOSFETs opposite each other, so you can do a push-pull amplifier.
That's intense. Wow. So I take it, is this going to be a completely open source project? Or you're going to sell the kits, or what's the?
I don't know how open source it's going to be. Like I said, this is also partly Dad's project, and they also run a family business and probably be interested in selling it. So I don't know how much they'd be willing to open source. Of course, I would like to make as much of it open source as I can, and probably the parts that I work on will be branded under myself, and also much of it will be open source.
Okay, cool. That's really interesting. And Thalia, tell us a little bit about what you're working on.
Goodness. So,
Talk to the mic.
talk to the mic. Right.
By the way, if you're wondering, they're at a public space, so they have a little bit more of the background noise.
Yeah, we're at my college currently, so here's a little bit of homework parties going on in the background.
Sounds productive.
Yeah, for sure. So, I am currently most busy with my Etsy shop, which is kind of directed towards selling 3D printed things. Currently, my main kind of selling points are 3D printed essential oil holders, because my mom is into all of that essential oil business stuff. So I've been designing holders and then selling them to a lot of the people who are her customers and whatnot. because that's definitely a need in that market. The shop also focuses on 3D printed jewelry, so I design a lot of jewelry and then 3D print it in multiple colors and sell it. And then one kind of thing that I'm in development of, I haven't actually released it yet, is 3D printed sun catchers.
You cut out right there. What did you say? 3D printed what?
Art and sun catchers. So like the faux stained glass that I said.
Yeah. So in the before party, she sent it's an amazing picture of is like what, Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, it's the stained glass Beauty and the Beast finale little picture. So
it was incredible. When she said she was working in stained glass, I was just like, okay, this is probably gonna be so some pattern with translucent plastic or something. But no, it is a pretty intricate, detailed picture.
Very detailed.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that took a while, but what I did was I found the picture online, obviously, and then I traced it using Inkscape, and then exported it as an SVG, and then I used Blender to turn that into a 3D model, which I then printed on my printer with H1 layer translucent backing. I use Hatchbox filament for everything because they're awesome. And then I just switched the filaments halfway through, and so it had a little black frame on top for the actual quote-unquote drawing.
And then you painted it?
Yeah, and then I painted it with acrylic paint mixed with Elmer's washable clear glue, so that makes it more of like an actual like flexible material.
Okay, cool. Wow, that's pretty intense. And on top of that, mind you, both of you are going to university, right?
Yeah, so I am at university for electrical engineering. This Etsy shop is how I stay sane in all of the technicalities of school and math. Yeah, so that's definitely my little outlet for staying sane with my creative side. So
yeah, that would drive me nuts. So you're working on anything else other than the Etsy shop?
Yeah, so my spectrum analyzer is another one of those. So the spectrum analyzer is, oh my word, I started it like a year ago and I still haven't finished it. But what it does is it basically takes in a music input, and I have a little chip, the MSGEQ7. It's a 7-band frequency analyzer. So the music input is...
Oh, for the audience, hold on. For the audience who doesn't know, what is a spectrum analyzer?
Spectrum analyzer is basically... Oh boy, how do I explain this? It is a thing that takes an audio input and then outputs the audio waves on a display. So like an LED, rows of LEDs, or sometimes you'll just see them on a screen and with the fancy audio waves everywhere. But I'm sticking to just like 7 rows of LEDs currently. Yeah, so I have a chip that filters the audio into 7 different bands, and then outputs the audio levels onto the LED panel that I designed. So.
Okay. Cool. And where you're at in that process?
I have the LED panel designed, and I'm working with Gector on the circuit right now. It's not done quite yet, so we're still in the design process of kind of making sure the individual parts work before we put it all together. So.
Okay. Wow, that's impressive.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And on top of that, you also run the Thalia tree server, right?
I do, yeah. That has not seen enough of my attention lately, to be honest. But yeah, I do run that. It's a community similar to Jay's, definitely not as big, but still growing, and there's quite a bit of activity on there related to 3D printing and circuits and coding and stuff. So that's pretty fun.
No.
And then,
I'll put a link in the description. You guys can go and check it out.
Cool.
Pretty cool
Yeah.
place. It's actually where the server started. I was over there and it's like, oh, this is fun. I should do this myself.
Start my own.
DIY.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been a fun journey to have both of our servers grow alongside of each other, even if they're not like super interactive together. But
yeah, we keep talking about having like a joint event or something, but it's like figuring out what that is. So if you guys can know to figure out some event or something that we could do together, that would be
awesome. I would love that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then
like,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna talk about another project that I had
Go for
going
it.
on.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I have school projects on top of everything that I'm working on as well. So I'm currently in a power systems class. So that focuses on fundamentals of motors and generators.
And PowerPoint?
Yes, definitely PowerPoint. So it focuses on motors and generators, also renewable energy. So different, like how all of that works, and then how the power grid works and how power is transferred from the actual motors and generators to the control systems to our houses and developments.
That is literally Glavin's job right there, right?
It literally
awesome. Is. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, so that's one of the classes I'm in right now. And our kind of semester project that we just launched was we're in project teams, and we're given the situation that we're going to a third world country, and the government has kind of put in some flaky systems there. They put in a 3-phase generator and kind of hooked things up, but then they just kind of ditched the third world country. So we're going in hypothetically and then fixing up their 3-phase. We're going to learn how to balance the loads of the needs of the village, depending on what kind of loads that they have there. So we're basically modeling an entire community and then figuring out how to separate the phases, balance the loads throughout the day, and whatnot. So that's the beginning project that I'm doing here at school.
Nice. That sounds super informative.
It's
a
really
fantastic
nice.
way to get
some
hands-on. And then there's the capstone going to be where you actually fly out to said theoretical. it's like, so guys, I got this totally hypothetical situation of a third world country. It doesn't exist. It's just purely hypothetical. Anyways, how would you fix this problem?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not quite, but yeah, it is pretty fun.
Oh wow, yeah, that sounds like a blast. Power systems always seemed interesting. They never seemed interesting. Well, no, that's not true. I just haven't had an excuse to mess with them. So
yeah,
and probably I won't, knowing me.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope I won't have to worry about messing with power systems. Let's just put it that way.
Gotcha. There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's not ultimately like what I want to do with my career, but it is a really interesting part of things. Like, I love learning about how like electricity is generated and transferred, because I've always wondered, but like, you never really know because it's such an abstract thing and you take it for granted a lot, but actually hearing and learning about how it all works is really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No,
absolutely. I actually run into a lot of work with people that are wanting to go off grid.
Oh yeah.
With their solar, and they're used to just turn on the light switch and there's lights just turn on. They don't think about how much wattage is being used for their loads, and so then they're like, well, yeah, I want to my huge house, I want to have it all off grid. I'm like, buddy, you've got a 200 amp service coming to your house and your electric bills are through the roof.
Yeah.
Do you understand how much battery power you're going to need just to keep up with this?
Yeah, not to mention that's a lot of money to install for like solely solar.
Yeah.
To provide for that many loads.
I think the last system that someone was really serious about but didn't understand just how much it was going to need, I think we quoted them almost like $500,000 for their system.
Oh my gosh.
But it was a big house. I was just like, I don't think it's feasible.
Wow. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's coming from the person who actually lives almost completely off grid.
Right.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's impressive.
Yes, isn't it?
That is really cool.
This is a subtle plug for episode 2, where we talk all about Glavin and his amazing off-grid house.
Yeah, I want to go listen to that now.
It's pretty cool, but it's definitely not for everyone, and it does require a lifestyle change.
Oh yeah, but
Still cool.
Oh yeah.
if,
I would do it again if I had to.
Generators run off wood.
Huh?
Wait, you have generators if you have enough wood?
No, we've got generators to run off of wood.
Like
off of
gasifier.
Wood works.
Right, tell us about that. That sounds really interesting.
We haven't worked on that in a while, but Dad especially likes working with gas fires. So he's made some charcoal making tools like burners and sifters and stuff. And one of the things he's developed is a little charcoal burning gas fire, basically made out of propane tanks and pipes and a water cooler for making wood gas that can just be fed into a gas.
Wait,
generator.
wood gas?
Yeah,
What is that?
it's gas from wood.
It's basically where you heat up wood without it igniting.
Yeah, without
And-
burning it.
Because the wood's not actually what's flammable on wood. It's the gas that's released from it being hot.
Yeah.
That's why you can burn tinder burns real easily, but a tree trunk just will not burn without being
'Cause it's not
hot
hot,
for
yeah.
a long period of time because it takes that heat to get the gas to begin to separate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Why have I not known this before? This seems like it's a fact I should know.
I'm pretty sure I've talked about this before.
Not very
Well, I
much.
remember you talking about the forges and everything, which is really interesting. But I don't remember the word gas. But that
Yeah.
okay, wow,
It makes
really
about I want to say 600 watts with the generator we had.
cool. For how many trees? How many trees a watt?
You see how many trees?
Yes.
I don't know, a 16th of a tree in one day. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So how long would that be for the Amazon rainforest?
That's a
It
lot
would
of
be an
math.
instant amount of time because the trees would go back in time.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That seems that's an ambitious project, but wow.
He's got a couple prototypes working. That's another thing that they've thought about selling, but Dad just likes doing that kind of thing. He's also built steam engines and other wacky stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. You always have so much stuff going on in that farm. It's like, all right, I just gotta say, he has one of the coolest shops I've seen. They've got like everything from a plasma cutter to like, they got a packaging machine. They got forges. I mean, they got it all decked out. It's like a DIYer's heaven over there.
It is pretty fun. It's a mess, but it's fun.
I mean, that's just granted for any environment in which work is getting done. It's gonna be a mess.
Not necessarily. Not as bad as it is.
Have you seen Einstein's office?
I haven't, actually.
Look at pictures.
Okay.
It's
Or just look at my desk.
That sounds kind of good.
yeah, that works too.
Oh, boy.
No, look at my desk.
Your desk is horrifying.
Yeah, your desk is frightening.
I don't
Even to
want
me.
to look at
Even
your
to
desk.
me.
Yeah, and he's bad enough. For anyone listening, for context, we are engaged.
Yeah,
So
Yes.
we're the nerd love couple.
The nerd love couple.
I think that's what's called a power couple.
Ah, right.
Oh. Right, I'm the amp, she's the volts.
There you go.
That'd be a
Nice.
perfect corny like a couple's T-shirt.
There you go. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh, my word.
Totally doing that now.
I'll give it to you as a wedding gift. How about that?
There you
Oh,
go.
no.
That's perfect. I would love that.
Oh, no.
You and I can work on that, Jay, and then we'll surprise.
Yeah, so
We'll
radios.
surprise that.
Nice topic change there.
Thinking about getting back to radios, what's some of the most interesting communications you've had with talking to people on these ham radios?
For me, we went mushroom hunting
Oh, that was funny.
one time in their forest woodsy place, and we had our ham radios. It was him and all of his siblings and plus ones, and we were out walking, and all of a sudden someone came up on our ham radio as we were like talking to each other, and he's like, "Hey, are you guys out looking for mushrooms?" And he was like trying to figure out where we were and telling us the best place to find mushrooms.
Not like
Not like hallucination.
they're like
just
soup mushrooms.
yeah.
They're really good.
I think they were chanterelles.
Yeah.
Nice.
That has to be the most amusing one
Yeah,
for me.
But Dara's also talked to truckers and stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to a lot of people, honestly. I've tried a lot on 2-meter, but my car radio needs some help because it's a cheap Chinese radio. I think some of this cool stuff is just seeing how many places we get to with automated protocols. Because some of the protocols you just kind of hit go on and they just basically ping people for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it says hello, the person says hello, and then you both log the hello, and then you go talk to someone else. And we've gotten some really cool places. I'm like Iceland, like I said, Japan, South Korea, stuff like that.
I think another like South American
nice.
country one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some really cool places.
So you get some decent range
and
out of those.
satellites. I gotta say, satellites have been one of the coolest things that we've played
Oh,
with.
really?
Oh.
Yeah.
What kind of satellites?
Tell us about that.
They're called CubeSats. They're just like sometimes companies launching rockets will fill extra space in their payload with like schools satellites. They're basically really, really tiny satellites with really little tiny solar panels that have almost no power, but their trajectory is known. They're tracked, and so you can look up a database of CubeSats and then try to catch a signal from one, and like see what the temperature is, see what its GPS position is, see what other things have been happening with it.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, it's really fun.
That is so cool. Oh my
And
goodness.
some of them work as repeaters too, so you can talk from space to somewhere else.
Oh, nice. Now,
We never got that working, but
does it require more power to try and talk to a satellite that's in space versus another receiver that's on the ground?
no, not really. Actually, it's more about your antenna quality than actually how much power you have. We were able to do a little bit with just the 5-watt radios. Of course, if you have more power, there's more room for error. But we had way more dependency on our directional antenna, on how it was pointed and stuff. Like if you were off by just a little bit, nothing would happen.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it kind of needs more of like a directional satellite versus just a wire.
Yeah. So we had a Yagi antenna, which I think Jay has done some stuff with. Yeah.
Yes, I tried to make a prototype, but that failed miserably.
Oh,
Surprise.
oh no. I mean, there are plans you can follow. We built one that works pretty well. But they're highly directional antennas, but not as good as like a dish or like a mesh antenna or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So how do you go about trying to angle one of these satellites? Is it something that requires like some motors to really get some high precision, or do you just trial and error?
You can, of course, motorize it, but the tracking database just tells you what part of the sky it's going to be in, and you just point it at that sky and try to track it manually.
Gotcha.
What's the tracking database called?
GPredict is the one I've been using.
I get it on Unix systems, I think.
Or Linux systems.
Yeah.
Which is the only correct operating system, as we all know. Yeah, I'm not worried about the coronavirus. I run Linux.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh.
So I remember you guys earlier saying that there seems like there's some licensing that's required for using a ham radio. Can you tell us a little bit about the legal requirements for using ham radio systems?
Yeah, so there are different classes. There's technician, general, and extra. There's only 3 now. There used to be more. Technician is the first level. It's really easy to test into. Just about anybody can do it. General is the next one up, and extra is the highest class. General and extra are very similar. Extra just gives you a little bit more frequencies that the generals don't have, so that like if a band is full, you still have somewhere to talk. And the tests, of course, get more difficult as you go up. However, the tests are public, which means all of their answers and questions are published online. And basically, the only difficulty is trying to memorize all 900 of them.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of
but when I
questions.
studied for my extra exam, which is what I am, I basically just read half of the questions and their answers, and that was most of my studying. We did have the study book, but a lot of the studying I did was just reading the questions.
Study book is more helpful for like when you're actually working on something and you need a question answered.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't learn as much as I could have if I just used the study book, but I was able to pass the extra test.
Nice.
So if you just like want to get a ham radio license and not super worried about knowing everything about ham radio, it's really easy to.
Yeah.
Now, is
You
there,
can
is there
also-
some cost that's involved in as far as getting these tests, or is it something that you can just do freely?
There's the only cost is
Like
the testing
$10.
cost, and it's like $10 to $15, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and
quite
it-
reasonable.
You usually go to somewhere like in your area.
Yeah, clubs do the test.
Yeah, the local ham clubs will put on the tests and then you'll fill out paperwork, you'll pay them, you'll take the test, and then they'll tell you whether you passed right then and there. And then usually you'll wait like about a week and then you'll get your call sign.
Yeah, if you don't have a call sign yet, it'll take usually a week or more to get it.
Nice. Now,
Yeah.
for the call signs, do you get to make those on your own to make a custom one, or is one provided for you?
You can make a custom, you can like request after you've gotten,
If you're an
Okay.
extra.
no, you can do it. You can get a,
Extras are guaranteed some ability to
Yeah.
get a custom
That's
call
true.
sign.
I think you have to apply as a general or a technician to get a custom
Mhm.
call sign.
I wasn't where you could do that.
I'm pretty sure you can because I looked at that.
Oh.
Uh,
But there are still rules to follow with the call signs,
Yes.
so they all end up sounding fairly similar.
Okay. Can you give us
extra
an
class
example of
can
what
have
they
short
sound
ones
like?
and stuff. Say again?
Can you give us an example of what a call sign would be like?
My call sign is KJ7AGP. What? Oh my gosh.
wow. Wow.
Hey.
Wow. Um,
What's your
yeah,
call
so
sign
my
again?
call sign is just some letters and numbers. It's KJ7AGP, and that's what most of them are like.
Yeah, and since
Okay.
we got them together, mine is KJ7AGN, so ours are really close.
Oh, nice. Makes it easy to remember.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, so the technician level gives you higher frequencies like 2 meter, 70 centimeter, stuff like that. And then the other classes give you lower frequencies as well, which are that longer range thing I was talking about. And there's a lot of different rules for the frequencies, especially as a technician. Like
Mhm.
the lower frequencies that you can use as a technician, you can only use Morse code on most of them.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's supposed to like make you want to learn Morse code and use the lower frequencies, but it just ends up nobody uses the lower frequencies.
Gotcha. Now, with there being a different ranges of frequencies, do you find that some are better for certain applications due to weather conditions and range?
Yeah, absolutely. The frequency you're using will change quite a few things. Like I said, the bounce specifically will change, and also the daytime nighttime propagation will change because of the layers of the atmosphere. I believe it goes from DEF layers of the atmosphere to EF. I don't really remember. I'd have to look that up. But the different wavelengths will penetrate those layers of the atmosphere differently. So you'll get different kinds of bounce with the different frequencies.
And so does the higher frequency tend to get you like a more data, but over a shorter, more clarity, but like over a shorter distance, and then a lower frequency gets you longer range?
Yeah, so you don't get a whole lot of bandwidth with the lower frequencies. It's usually not much more than 3 kilohertz of bandwidth. But with the higher frequencies, I think you can use, I don't know what the max is, but it's quite a bit more because you're first off using FM, which is way more than 3 kilohertz. I think it's 6 kilohertz and up.
Mhm.
and also the data protocols are more lax. Like you can use more of them on the higher frequencies, mostly because the higher bands are more open and the lower ones are less open. Like nobody's really around 400 megahertz. There's a lot of room to play with up there, but if you're on like 10 megahertz, there's not a whole lot of room.
Gotcha. Neat.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating stuff. Should probably let you guys go. Got a busy day.
Okay.
So I'll put the link to the Discord in the description. Are there any other things you want to plug? Obviously, your Etsy store.
Yeah, I can send you the link, and you're welcome to put it in the description.
Any other plugs you'd like to make? Any books you've written?
I haven't written any books yet.
Not yet.
Sadly.
Could put a
All
plug
right.
in for our wedding and say come visit and give us a ham radio. Buy us electronic components for our registry.
They'll put a shopping list in the description.
Wow.
They'll probably be. Are you just for? Is your wedding? Does DigiKey even have a wedding registry?
I mean, they have a bomb. We could make a wedding bomb.
There you go.
And that's a BOM, like bill of materials, not like.
Yeah. No.
No.
Just want to make that clear for our listeners.
Important
We're gonna-
distinction.
Yeah, we're gonna go out with a bang.
All right. Yeah, I think. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for hopping on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us,
Yeah,
Jay.
thank
Really
you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's
That was really
awesome.
fun.
Yeah. No, these are always a blast. Anyways, stay tuned, and for whatever project you're working on, remember everyone, keep it janky to the max.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Jaynky to the Max. If you like it, make sure to like the video and subscribe. And if you want to suggest more projects that we can feature, make sure to comment down below, or even better, join the Discord server in the description. We try to stream live every weekend on the server, so make sure to join and grab the podcast role if you want to be there and see it for yourself. Anyway, make sure to stay janky.